it was a gradual process,
Yeah.
but I was willing to let go of something I was miserable at in order to find what makes me happy.
Welcome all to your space for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams. This is the Speak Your Vision podcast. You are the listener. You're about to get informed. Let's get it. So this episode, we're launching a new quiz for the We Are Vision of Hope brand, talking about unveiling your path. All right. Unveiling your path, owning your path. And I was like, who could I possibly bring on to the podcast that really understands what it means to own and really recognize what their path in life may look like, even if it has some changes? And I was like, I'm going to bring on my friend. And I was like, she adapts to change in so many ways. I definitely asked her to record this podcast episode maybe about 30 minutes ago. Besides the point, nevertheless, being adaptable and all those different things and understanding what your path is such an important part of life. And so for this episode and to talk about this, I am bringing on my friend from way back when, Karah Danubio Drake, business owner and esthetician.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Karah?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I woke up to a text from Tariq that says, "Hello, how are you?" And I was like, "This is not a check-in. This is what do you want?" And then, I was like about to like work out and stuff. And he was like, "You want to do a podcast?" And I'm like, "Give me till 11." So here we are.
Awesome. So did you still get the workout in?
I did. Yes.
All right. Excellent. Because I'm not, you know me, I'm not about trying to take people away from their workout. So I'm happy that you're still able to do that. Excellent. But what we do here, we have to set the tone for the interview, for the podcast episode. And I'm talking about owning your path and all those different things and what that looks like. So let's get started by asking you, what's one word that makes you think about why you wanted to become a business owner?
So it's funny because as soon as he asked me, like, "Oh, well, you do a podcast," I was like, "Okay." And in the shower, I was like, "What's my one word gonna be?" Right? Because I know how this works. And it asked me a completely different question than what I had to work for. So the word I would use about why I wanted to become a business owner is probably freedom. Because I don't know, I'm the type of person who I hate routine. I hate like the strict, like, I don't know. It's like being strict on like what you have to do and like going to work every day, doing exactly what your boss tells you to do, blah, blah, blah. And like, I just like having my freedom, my flexibility, doing what I want to do. Like, I don't know, doing stuff for me instead of like for someone else, So
I love that. I think a lot of times people eventually get to freedom, but the fact that was your one word, I think that's really, gosh, that makes you think about a whole bunch of different things right now. Because would you say that some people want that freedom because they feel like they have lack of control in their lives?
yeah, I mean, I'm a control freak. Like I am someone who wants to have complete control of everything, which is super funny because I am someone who also is very good with change. And I think I'm good with change because I'm easily able to recognize how I can be in control of the change. And I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like when you have the freedom to own your own business and do what you want and all that stuff, you do have control of, what work gets done, why it gets done, how it gets done, all of that stuff. And I remember when I was working, a music publishing firm, I was like an accounting assistant, and I would be taught one way of doing something and I would do that one way. And then she would change her mind and be like, no, I want it done this way. And it's like, well, why can't we do it this one other way that I found that's easiest for me? You know what I mean? And it's like,
Mhm.
why is it always like has to be this or that? And like, why can't the employee do the way that they want to do it? Why does it have to be like, as long as the work gets done, why does it have to be one way or the other? You know what I mean? So that was like one of the biggest things. Is just not having any control of how I did my work. Even though I was really good at my work, and I'm like, I was the person who like collected money from businesses when they were like overdue.
Mhm.
And I ended up in the 1 year that I worked there, I ended up collecting over $100,000 for the company
Wow.
because I was so good at my job. So
Wow. Wow. So you wanted that freedom, and you obviously take a lot of pride in your work and just doing it to the best of your ability. But to make that transition from employee to business owner is an interesting one. And let's even go further back, Kara, right? Because let's be real here. You started like you were a music major, okay?
I was.
so so when we're thinking about the pivot, the change, learning more about yourself in the process, for people who are saying, I have to go to college and I have to get the college job that I had studied for the 4 years. What are your thoughts? Like, what comes to mind when you think about that?
So I went to college for 6 years. I graduated college because in my mind it was like I was the first person in my household to go to college, and I wanted to finish. And to me, I like had to finish college, right? So like I would say if you have to finish college, finish college. There's so many other lessons that you can learn from college other than
Mm,
your specific degree. And a lot of the stuff I went to school for music business with minors in theater and accounting. You know how much stuff I've learned from all of that? Like a lot of stuff. And it helps me with what I do now as well as all different kinds of things. So like if you want to finish college, go for it. If you don't want to finish college, then don't finish college. But I mean, I also do musical things, so I am using my degree in some way. So like
mhm.
I teach high school drumline with my husband. I'm also in the Philadelphia Eagles drumline. I know it's like, but
We won't get into those specifics, but I do think it's really cool that you are on a professional team's drumline. I think that's really awesome.
yeah. So I'm still using a little bit of what I learned in college because in college I had marching band and I went and marched, world class drumline and stuff like that. And that helps me with what I'm doing now. So
Mhm.
like I would have never had the experiences that I have now if I didn't go to college. But on that other end of things, like do not feel like you have to stay in one thing your entire life, right?
Mm.
I decided that. So what happened was I actually joined Mary Kay. So I was a Mary Kay consultant for a few years while I was still working and stuff like that. And I became so miserable at my job that I was working at that my husband actually encouraged me to quit and just make Mary Kay my full time job. Um, so I did that. Was it very lucrative? Not really. um, but it also pushed me towards stuff that I did end up liking, which was makeup application. And eventually I decided I wanted to go back to school to become an esthetician and a professional makeup artist. And um, here I am now. I own my own salon. So it was a gradual process,
Yeah.
but I was willing to let go of something I was miserable at in order
Mhm.
to find what makes me happy.
That's the key right there, right? I think oftentimes we do the thing because we feel like we're supposed to do the thing, and then we put our happiness aside.
Yes.
And we have to realize that that's unacceptable. A few things that you said that I really want to go back to, because you talk about the fact that you graduated college in 6 years. But I think there needs to be some context here, and I think it speaks to how great of a person you are and how adaptable you can be because you knew that your family. So, well, we went to Westchester University. Kara and I went to college together, and we where we're from, which we also went to high school together. Um, but where we're from
Wait, I
is
want to
about
tell them how we met.
sure.
So
Oh
Tariq and
gosh,
I were in a little play or musical called Hello Dolly, and he was my dance partner.
we were. You know, I had told a friend that at some point in my life I was going to be a part of a musical. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I was going to do it. And real quick, that person listens to the podcast, and I wonder if he remembers. So I need you to hit the like button, comment if you know that you're that person. But I told someone that I was gonna at some point in my life, I was gonna do a musical, and I did it. And once again, I got to meet another one of my best friends in you, Kara. And so that was, I think, when you talk about freedom and having the opportunity, I think that's what I also learned in college myself more than anything, the opportunity to learn more about myself and things that I was the basketball player, right? I never thought that I would have so much love for music and for being in a musical and all that and meeting one of my best friends. And so you never know what life is going to bring to your table. And just being real, your major almost sounds like out of this world because it's music business with minors in theater and accounting. I could list on one finger the amount of people that I know that have that major. Um, but I think it speaks to your. I mean, I know people say the importance of saying no and setting boundaries, and the important. But I think it's a place of like if you can do something and you're saying yes to it, then it speaks to you're only giving yourself more opportunity. And so going back, like the reason why it took you a bit longer to graduate was because you knew that your family needed you. So you said, okay, I'm only going to do classes for what, once or twice a week, and
Yeah,
then kind of
so
commute. Tell us about that change because that change happened. What like that was going to be your senior year.
yeah, so in my junior year, my mom called me, and long story short, she was pregnant. The father's not in the picture. She needed help. I went home. So I moved. I literally was like, she was just ranting to me. She wasn't asking me for anything. She was just like kind of scared, like my mother, like out of all people, scared, doesn't know what to do. So I was like, it's okay. I'll just move home. I'll help you. And she's like, what? And I was like, I can do college. I can do school once a week. Help you work full time at Wawa. It's fine. I'll just do it all. Um, so I moved home for that year. Now, keep in mind, my home was 2 hours away from school, and the commute. Yeah, so I went home. I would watch my brother 4 days a week, and I would go to school on Wednesdays, that one day a week, and I would come down in the morning, do all of my classes. I was part-time at this point, but I did as many classes as I could fit in one day. And then I would drive home that night. And then the days that I watched my brothers, I would go to work at like 6 o'clock when my mom came home, and I worked until 4 a.m. so that I could get my 40 hours a week. And then I would sleep until my mom went to work, and then I just did that process. And then on top of that, I marched United Percussion on the weekends. So that was my life for a year.
For a lot of the listeners now, they listen on like Apple Podcast and they listen on Spotify. That's where most of my listeners are at. So one, thank y'all. But if you are listening on YouTube right now and you're watching, the entire time I'm listening to Kara, I am shaking my head like no. Um, so, but the reason is because I'm shaking my head no, but I do commend you, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on to talk about what it looks like to own your path, because I think that you've never lost an opportunity to be able to just help somebody out or be able to figure out what it looks like for you to kind of learn from a particular situation and what all those things might look like. And going back, were there ever times because and we're gonna get back to the business owner thing in a little bit here, but were there ever times when helping your family, and then you're working, and then you're doing the marching band thing. Were there ever moments, and then doing all your classes at the same time, were there ever moments where you were like, I think I need to give up?
I mean, I was definitely tired.
I'm sorry.
It was a very tiring year. But you make it work. Like you just put your schedule around making it work. Like my brother was like very tiny and he slept half the day. So I just slept when he slept, right? And then I mean, there was some challenges, but I was doing it. I knew my why, right? I was there to help my mom because my mom is the best person I know. She literally does anything and everything for her kids, and she's been through so much. And my why was making sure that I can give back to my mom in a way that she's always given to me, you know? So, like, for me, it was like no brainer for me to help my mom and like to struggle through that year. And like, to be honest, like, it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. Like, I made it work. I mean, my grades stayed up. It was fine. It's fine.
you know, I you brought up something. It wasn't as difficult as you thought it was gonna be. The things that we go through in life might sound super daunting, and ridiculous, but then you're in the moment, you're doing the thing, and I think you realize that you're stronger than you actually thought that you were.
Yeah, I think sometimes we fear to start doing something because we're like, wow, that's going to be really hard and I don't know if I can do it. But you don't know how hard or if you can do it or not until you do it. Right?
That's it. That's it. And then once you do the thing, that's how you build your confidence in yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you know who I was in high school. I was not confident whatsoever.
So so I you once again unveiling your path, having that freedom and becoming more of who you are, right? Kara, correct me if I'm wrong. When you talk about when I'm listening to you saying like how you becoming a makeup artist and getting into becoming an esthetician, Kara, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know.
So growing up, I was a complete tomboy. I would never let my mom do my hair, my makeup, nothing. She had to force me to get my makeup done for prom. And I was just like, I have no interest in any of this. So it was really a shock actually to like everyone that this is where I ended up. But um I don't know. So I'm gonna go through the story real quick, but
Please, please.
about the year that I graduated college, so it wasn't even that long ago, right? Well, 7 years ago actually, but it wasn't that long in comparison. Um, yeah, right. 7 years. I was if you don't know what Mary Kay is, it's just a like a networking company where you sell cosmetics and skincare and stuff. And one of my friends put my name in for like a free consultation, whatever. So I went and I was like, oh, here's some skincare and stuff. And I knew that I needed to like start washing my face because, at like 25, you're supposed to be doing that stuff.
I don't know.
So,
Maybe when you're like 10, you should watch it. Again, besides the point. Go ahead.
right? Like that's how bad I was, right? I didn't know anything. So I bought like a little bit of stuff and I started like using the product. I really love the product. And then one day she was like, hey, I'm looking for people who want to make some extra money, right? So you know how it is. They like recruit you to do the thing. So I joined because mostly I just wanted my products for 50% off. And like deep down in my subconscious, I was still working at Wawa and I was like, maybe I can make this work enough that I can quit Wawa, right? Because I really hated Wawa.
Hold on, real quickly. For those who don't know, that live in the South, that live in the Midwest, that live on the West Coast. Wawa is, I'm ready to start a controversy. All right. Wawa, whenever I go back to Pennsylvania or I'm in DC, Maryland, whatever, Wawa is a must stop.
Yeah.
Best. I mean, it's a gas station, sure,
Yeah.
but it's the best corner store food you'll eat.
Well, actually, did you know Wawa started as a deli and then turned into a gas station?
Well, there you go. There you go. Well,
Yeah. So
the Wawa neck and that you used to work at, I believe, didn't even have a gas station at first. So that makes sense.
I
I don't think it did.
yes. No, I started at a gas station one, and then I went to a legacy store, which was one that didn't have a gas station.
Mhm.
And then I went back to a gas station one. So I worked
But
at a lot of Wawas.
we digress. Continue.
So anyway, so I did the Mary Kay thing, and I just sold here and there to friends and family, and I was like, I don't know anything about makeup, right? How am I supposed to sell this if I have no idea how to use it? So then I started like, I guess I'm gonna watch some YouTube videos. So I kept practicing, I watched videos, and at some point, I was like, oh, this is actually really fun because for me, I love arts and crafts and stuff like that. I'm not good at art at all, except now I'm a little bit better because obviously. But for me, it was a fun outlet because it was almost like learning how to paint almost. You know what I mean? Because like really, your face is just a canvas of like for color and stuff. So I found that I actually really enjoyed makeup application and I would learn a lot about it. And a lot of people would give me compliments. I ended up doing my own makeup for my wedding. Like I did me and my bridesmaids and my mom and all that stuff. So um so yeah, and then my friend Clara actually asked me to do her wedding makeup about 2 years ago. Yeah, I think 2 years ago. And I found that I really, really enjoyed the process. And I was like, I didn't ask her for any money either. I just did it because I wanted to. And she gave me about how much she thought wedding like makeup was. Probably not as much, but like she gave me a decent amount of money just for thanking like to thank me. And I was like, oh, I could make money doing this. So like I didn't realize like that I that's something I could do, right? So I ended up talking to my husband about it and I was like, I want to be a makeup artist. I want to be a bridal makeup artist. And then it kind of morphed into, well, what else could I do? So we started looking into esthetician school. And within 2 months, I was sitting at esthetician school, getting ready to get my license. So
That's
and
amazing.
here we are.
I think there's something to be said about how you just jumped into it. But and just once you started realizing what you like, you're like, okay, I'm gonna jump in. And Kara, you've always done that. And I also think about how you started finding something that you liked, and then you just dove into it. Like, oh, I can actually do the thing. I don't have to hesitate. You said I was in school 2 months later. I can actually do the thing. I don't have to wait. I like this. I'm gonna go do it. And I mean, going from someone who didn't really wear makeup at all or anything like that to now, explain the look right now for the audience.
What I'm wearing right
What
now.
you're wearing right now, the hair, all of
No,
it.
I actually have the palette that I just did. I literally, so I, when he was like, oh, let's do a podcast, I was like, oh, well, I have to like actually presentable, right? So I was like, okay, my plans for the day have completely changed, but how can I make this work for myself, right? So I was like, put the camera on and making it real. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just gonna record myself getting ready and I'll put it into content later and all that other stuff. But it's fall season, my hair is orange, so I pulled out my fall palette. So this is the Warm Hues Fall palette from Mary Kay. So I just did this basically and vamped it up a little bit. I have Spice of Life lipstick on. And that is pretty much it. So if you want to see the reel, go follow me on Instagram. It'll come up soon.
All right. Yeah. Let's have that up. This is going to be live on Sunday, Karah. So let's have let's do it. I would love to link it in the description.
Link the reel. Okay. I'll try to get it to you.
But once again, the other part of this is understanding what it looks like to, always be there for the people who matter to you. There's something to be said, Karah, about whenever someone asks you things, like you were explaining your mom, but as you were explaining your mom, I was thinking of you. I mean, this podcast episode, in a sense, is the ultimate, like, because we were talking about owning your path and how to handle change. I truly told Karah, hey, let's record this half an hour ago. And she was there. And so I think a lot of times people think that their path has to look one way, but being accepting of change, how have you been able to do that?
I have never been the type of person who, when something different comes along, I get super anxious and I don't want to do that. I'm typically the type of person who is okay. Typically when some kind of change happens, I'm the type of person who likes to learn all the things. I want to do all the things. So when something new and exciting comes along, I pretty much jump right onto it because I very much like different stuff. And we have our entire life to constantly learn new things and to change and just who wants to do the same old all the time? And right now I own a salon, but who says in 15 years I don't do something else? You know what I mean?
I think a lot of times believe that it has to look like one size fits all, and ultimately it's not one size fits all. And so embracing that change really speaks to now you own your own salon and you're about to do the different things. I mean, what's it like owning your own salon? Because you didn't think that this is where you were going to be 10 years ago, right? So what did you think you were going to be doing? And what's it like owning your own salon now?
So growing up, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So everyone was like, oh, I want to be a, police officer or fireman or doctor or whatever. And I was just like, I have no clue. And I think it's because I want to do so many things. And the only thing I knew for sure is that I didn't want to work in an office. That seemed stifling to me. And I think it's subconsciously in my brain, I was like, you don't know what you want to do yet because you weren't presented with the right viable option yet,
Mm-hmm.
But, being here where I am now, I always have lots of dreams and goals. I'm very much like to dream. I have way too many things that I want to do and not enough time to do them. And having the salon, I had the opportunity, I had the space to do it. And I had the opportunity to do it. And I was as soon as my brain latched onto the idea, I was like, this is happening, right? The word I was going to use earlier that we did not get to was tenacity. Because I'll read you the definition of tenacious. The word tenacious means having a firm grip on something, being very determined or persistent. A tenacious person doesn't easily give up on their goals or beliefs. Even when faced with difficulties or opposition, they are resilient and committed to holding on or pushing through challenges. So my husband tells me this all the time. If my mind is made up for something, no one can tell me that it's not going to happen because I just completely don't listen to them. And even if it takes me way longer than I originally thought it was going to take, I thought I was going to get through school in a couple months and then open my salon by the end of the year and all that stuff. It took me over a year to open my salon. So it's painful challenges and painful, I always have to look at myself and be like, I want to do this amount of stuff in this amount of time, and it never happens. And I'm like slowly learning that it does take more time than I want it to do things. But I still don't like, oh, I couldn't get this done today, so I'm never gonna do it. Like I just add it on to the next thing and I just keep trudging along and eventually it'll work out, So
I think you just really spoke to like what a perfect guide would look like for any business owner. It doesn't always look like how we want it to look like. There's gonna be difficulty, there's gonna be struggle, but don't give up. Push it on to the next thing. I've had conversations with people, and I'm like, "Hey, like I want to do this thing," and they're like, "Tariq, that's not possible." And in my head, I'm like, "Is it possible to use those words together in that order?" Like, I don't understand
I
giving
mean,
up, and I think that's why we get along so well.
yeah, I mean, nothing is impossible. It is a matter of how much time it will take, how much resource, how much energy, and whether or not you have that or not, right?
Mhm, mhm.
For someone who doesn't have the why or the energy to do something, of course it's not going to happen, right? Because they're not willing to put that work into it in order to make it happen. So to them, it feels impossible because they just they don't have what it takes to do it, right? Because
Grayson,
they're
go ahead,
they're
go
they're
ahead.
telling themselves they can't do it. So of
Mhm.
course they're not going to do it, right? If you really want something, this boils down to your why, right? My why was I don't want to work for someone. I want to have flexibility, freedom, all this other stuff.
And I don't think people really understand what it means when things are difficult or hard sometimes. I think a lot of this looks like it's not that it's hard, it's that it's a new thing that you're going through and you have to adapt, build the confidence and grow through whatever the situation is. And I think once again, that is truly the ultimate guide for what it looks like to be a business owner because it may not always look like how you want it to look, but when it comes back to that first word that you said, I think freedom I think in order to get that freedom, once again, you have to have that tenacity. I love that. I mean, you went to the last word before I went to it, because, but no, for those who don't know, Karah does all the things. She actually, up until recently, about a few months ago, she was also the podcast editor. So,
Yeah, I was. And I want to make a comment on that. Like
yeah,
I said earlier that I am typically the person who says yes for everything, and I'm really it's difficult for me to say no. And I want to mention that I was so like, oh, he asked me to edit his videos, and I was like, sure, let's do it. And then recently, in the last couple of months, I realized I need to work more on my business to get where I want to be. And I had to make some boundaries and I had to say no to something. And this was one of the things that I had to say no to. And, you know, I worked with him for a couple months until he found someone else, but he was really nice and um, was super helpful on helping me with that boundary. So,
well,
yeah.
I talk about it all the time, right? Like, I think your mental health, your mental space, your self-care, all those things are an equation. And a part of that is making sure you have time to do the things that you want to do and do get that freedom ultimately, right? And it was funny because when you brought it up to me I was like, yeah, like I mean it was never supposed to be the forever thing. And so
Yeah.
and so what it looks to set a boundary for yourself, and for those listening, set a boundary, talk to your friends, your family, etc. if there's a boundary that you need to set, absolutely. And still continue to be great friends in the process. And Karah, it's been so great to kind of talk to you all about this because I'll say this, I never thought of you as this big control person, but now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, wow, like, business owner, her own studio. And then I think way back and I was like, this is also the girl that even created her own prom dress.
Oh, yeah, I did do that. That dress was so bad.
but but the fact is I think just doing the thing, and no one's gonna, once you have something in your mind, don't let anybody take it away from you. And I think that's a big takeaway of what it means to really own your path.
Yeah. I mean, if you want what if you want something bad enough, then I would say, just have a little faith in it.
I mean, if you want if you actually want it, you're gonna put in the work to get it. You talked about persistence earlier. Like if you want the thing,
Yeah.
then go do the thing. If you want
Yeah.
something different, then you got to do something different.
Yeah, I would say also be purposeful, right?
Mm.
Like, I'm the type of person who wants to do all of the things. And my husband also has to remind me of this, that I can't do everything all at once. And I have to kind of like focus and stay purposeful on what my goals are for the year. Because I tend to be like, oh, look at this nice little shiny thing over here. I want to take that and run with it. But it's like, no. You still have all this shiny stuff over here that you have to deal with. So, but yeah, like I'm all about change because I like learning all the things and I like new opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's just the type of person I am. But I guess if you are someone who likes being like to stay where you are now, I would say like, you know, nothing better is going to happen where you are now. If you want something better in your life, you're going to have to go find some change, right?
Woo. Let's go. Let's go. Speak Your Vision podcast. Let's go. Karah, before we go, what's new? How can people work with you? Um, Once again, listeners, we have, an esthetician, powerhouse, beauty studio owner. Karah, what do you got for the people today?
So if you are near, or if you're in Delco, if you know what that means, you'll know what that means. Or
If you know, you know.
you know. Or near Philly. My studio is in Woodland, PA. My website is karahsbeauty.com. If you put Tariq in the comments, I'll give you 20% off your first service. I also have a Your Beauty Independence Masterclass. It's an online class. It's coming in the beginning of October. It's a very basic makeup application, like learn all the things about makeup. You could have no experience, you can have some experience, whatever it is, you can come join the class. It's only $35 and it's access for life. I run it a few times a year. I will send Tariq the link to put it in the comments down below to sign up for that. And then if you're also in the area, I have my holiday open house coming up in November, and all of my services are on sale. And I have a bunch of holiday gifts all around and all that stuff. And it's a fun time. I will also put give him a link down below to sign up for my newsletter so that you can have all the information about that. So
Awesome. I think that, gosh, I'm listening to all the things, Karah, and I'm like, I'm so impressed with what you've been able to do from where you were to where you are now, and we know the best is yet to come. Not only for us two here, but I think all the listeners need to understand that like wherever you're at now is not where you have to stay. Karah, thank you so much for being on the podcast on such short notice. This is the Speak Your Vision podcast, your space for everything empowerment. And if you want to learn more about you and what it looks like to actually unveil and own your path and get some direct tips on that, check out my quiz down below, the Unveiling Your Path, and we'll figure out what's stopping you and get you some tips to move forward through it. Karah, thank you so much for being on this and having this conversation with me. You were great to have for this. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.